Good evening, friends. Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live, joined by my wife, Yana Benoon, and as well as Brother Perez, former rabbi, also a believer now. And it is a delight to have both of you on. Kind of feels funny saying that. Have to have both of you on.
Yes.
Anyway, we got some very interesting information to discuss tonight. It's about a debate that Vincent Bruno has been on Israeli News Live before. A very articulate man when it comes to the Noahide laws. And he's done a lot of research, but he was in a debate with Michael Brown, Dr. Michael Brown, and didn't do very well in the debate, mainly because his host, Dr. Michael Brown, I think a lot of this had to do with just was not affording him the proper time to respond to the questions that were being presented in this debate, and so it was more one-sided. And so we decided to take together with Brother Perez and my wife to go through, dissect this debate and answer it the way it needs to be answered in order that people may know the seriousness of the Noahide laws. They are Talmudic. They are definitely in the Talmud. I have the Encyclopedia Talmudic Britannica behind me here, the Sensino Talmud. So we can always share that with you guys as well. Thank you so much. Yana, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah. Well, I want to welcome Brother Luis Perez because he's ex-rabbi, as you said, Steve, and he is well versed in the Talmud because he studied it professionally. He also speaks Hebrew, reads Hebrew, and he really understands the subject. And he does agree with us. He has experience in that area himself, just like you do, Steve, as well, because you used to be in Chabad organization yourself. And Brother Perez, as an ex-rabbi, he was among these people. So we have, or you too have very direct experience. And I believe that you are the best people to talk to when it comes to this particular subject. Now, as we know, Dr. Brown does not agree with us that Noahide laws are dangerous. He does not agree. He does not believe that rabbis are proselyting actively for Noahide laws. He doesn't seem to be bothered with the fact that they are being re-signed year by year as a public law by every single president. And he does not agree that these are unconstitutional laws that should have no place in any of the American law. So I would like to talk to you, Brother Luis, now, if you can take it from here. We watched the debate yesterday. It got me a little bit angry because, as you said, Steve, Dr. Brown did not allow Vincent to speak freely and express himself freely. So that really bothered us, the way that he treated Vincent. And Vincent is not brother in Christ. He admits he's a Hindu, but he does have very good research on Noahide laws, very comprehensive research. His website is stopnoahidelaw.blogspot.com. We have hosted him because we value his research in this area. And I believe that you, Brother Perez, you were on his show as well, right? So why don't you tell us, brother, how did you feel about this debate?
Yes, I was just prior to the interview, I was able to join his live cast, and we spoke about the agreements that we have with regarding to the Noahide laws. I suggested that yourselves, Hannah and Stephen and Vincent, are far more above me in the sense of how these apply in the contemporary, where I was, what I was sharing with Vincent was the source of these beliefs and these thoughts coming from the religion itself, that this is not just fringe rabbis that we can show videos of, which are just as valid, but at the same time, we would go back to the sources, seeing the origins of rabbinic Judaism, where these rabbis, usurped authority from God, and how that leads into the development of these Noahide laws and the consequences that that would come as a result of not submitting to these laws, to these rabbis, and eventually their King Messiah, which from our perspective would be the Antichrist. So I shared all that information with him. But as we saw in the interview, or I don't know if we'll show it here or not, but
Sure.
as we saw in the interview, it just didn't get that far. There was not an opportunity for either side to even have those discussions. So what I did was I reviewed your interview, Stephen and Hannah, with Dr. Brown previously, and I prepared something, but we can go over that once we get to that point. And I took down notes, and I'll present the three major concerns that Dr. Brown has and what response and rebuttals I would have. Because the origins, what I want to emphasize is the origin of my concern of the Noahide laws has to do with the religion itself, with the rabbis themselves, with this superiority complex that they have, that they will and want to dominate. This is the outcome of their end time scenario from their perspective in rabbinic Judaism. So just because a conservative or reform rabbi or a secular Jew may not agree with these things, that doesn't mean that it wasn't written, that it's not believed by Jews who actually do believe in a literal oral tradition, a literal received tradition that was passed down by Moses to the Jewish people. So we'll get into all that detail and explanation. But that's just a little preface as to what happened that got us to the point of tonight.
Yes. Now, I want to clarify something for people.
One second.
Yeah, go ahead,
Please,
Stephen.
I'm sorry about this. I think it's very important because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch this that were part of Dr. Brown's debate. I think it'd be very important to re-stress and let Brother Perez give us at least about a 1-minute synopsis of his background as an Orthodox rabbi, because Dr. Brown, he was more or less a secular Jew. He wasn't really very much so much as a religious Jewish guy when he became a believer in Jesus himself. Whereas Brother Perez comes from the Orthodox community as an Orthodox rabbi himself. And so his perspective compared to Dr. Brown's is completely 180 degrees different. And with the knowledge of knowing how rabbinical thinking really is, not just going around assuming what the rabbis are thinking or teaching or getting some secondhand information, but directly from the source that studied these laws, knows how they apply to the Gentiles and how the rabbis intend to enforce them. So, Brother Perez, could you please give us about a 1 to 2 minute synopsis of your background?
Yes, definitely. As growing up in my teens, I initially started in the Reform movement. Then I found myself later in the conservative movement, and that's where I did my undergraduate studies. My Bachelor of Arts degrees is in Jewish Studies from the American Jewish University in Los Angeles. Shortly after that, after spending time in Mexico and teaching Introduction to Judaism and converting people that lived in Mexico to Rabbinic Judaism, I eventually made Aliyah, became a citizen of Israel, spent time there, going back and forth, but definitely spent some time there with the intention to continue my studies. My hope was to become a rabbi. So I went to different shiurim, as they call it, lessons that, you can go and sit and for free, and then going and studying and learning from people. And the rabbis there, I mean, they're exactly what the videos you've shown. I mean, they believe what you're talking about. And even though maybe Dr. Brown might have Orthodox friends that have no idea what we're talking about, which I find very, very hard to believe. Because I know that I was taught to deceive and to hide these things. So even if they knew, they would never tell, especially somebody like Michael Brown. So I'm coming a pre-salvation perspective and a pre-salvation experience in Judaism, in all the Judaisms, but specifically in Orthodox Judaism. And upon returning from Israel and spending time in back in the States, I was able to reconnect with my rabbis in Los Angeles, and through them find a rabbi in New York that was willing to give me a private smicha as a result. And so that's my background in a synopsis. So I'm not just clicking on a website and gathering information. This is experience. So even if he wants to eliminate all the citations that I have, he cannot negate the truth of the experience that I had. And that is, the Achilles heel for him.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
very, very good.
much in a similar fashion, but not as an Orthodox rabbi, but my own background, spending 20 years with the Chabad organization. I actually was a member of Chabad, but I still stayed a Christian. It was basically, for me, it was exploring my ancestry. And of course, for me, it was immediate. My parents were both were Jews, but non-practicing. And but I got very close to the rabbis. I studied in synagogues with rabbis and stuff. So I got to see firsthand as well, very much as it is stated in the Talmud about having Gentile slaves. That was a very part of open conversation that even though they know that I'm a believer in Jesus, I guess they tend to forget over the years. And so you're just embraced as just another Jew. And
Precisely.
so I really learned a lot of the thinking of the rabbis, because that's what I was really close to, mainly were rabbis, Orthodox Chabad rabbis.
And keep in mind, as ironic as this sounds, Chabad, of all the Hasidim, are the liberal. We're not talking about, Satmar and Nutre Karta, who are even the farther extreme of the Hasidut, right? The Hasidim. And so even then, with what Chabad is saying, what Schneerson has said, if we said those things about Jews today, my goodness, what would happen to us at this point. So that's what we're going to expose and reveal, I presume, tonight, and we'll let the chips fall where they fall.
Well, I wanted to make it clear that I don't think Dr. Brown believes you get saved through Noahide laws. I don't think he agrees with the fact, I don't think he agrees that we get saved through Noahide laws. That's not what he means. The point of Dr. Brown is that there is no danger, for the Gentiles, Christians at all. He claims that Jews are not actively proselyting for Noahide laws. He claims that they would never behead anyone. They have no such power, nor will ever have such power to behead anyone. And then these are just, there's just really just beliefs, just like any other religion have their own beliefs, but they're not dangerous for us, and we shouldn't, take it out of proportion or that's his point. He thinks basically that Jews, Noahide laws are not even a subject for discussion because they're not dangerous for Christians, because Jews will never attain that world domination. Okay, so what do you think, Brother Perez? Is he correct in this? Are we crazy by warning people about these Noahide laws?
Well, obviously, I would take the position that he's incorrect. And again, the source of my worry is, again, not intrinsically the words themselves. I don't have a problem with the words that are being said in the Noahide laws. That's not my issue. My issue is what's behind those words, behind the spirit that's behind the intention of implementing those laws. And it's that Jewish superiority complex, that irony that what they would not want done unto themselves, they do to others, and they get away with it. That's the problem and the source. And I'm going to present, when we get to that point, how this is just the springboard. He's saying that this is the end all. No, this is just the beginning, the springboard that's going to lead us into the eschatological events that we believe as Christians, regardless of whatever positions we may hold about the end times. So it's a lot bigger than just, 7 Noahide laws, from my perspective at least, and looking back from Rabbinic Judaism
Mhm.
now as a saved Christian.
It's how they interpret them and who has the power of interpretation. That's the problem.
Precisely. And
Right.
keep in mind, Rabbinic Judaism teaches that these rabbis are the arbitrator of God. They're literally God's voice. Remember that when we
Yeah.
studied, God says, my children have defeated me, my children have defeated me. That's the source of this religion. This is not the religion of the Bible of Israel in the Old Testament. This is a man-made religion. And we're going to see the results of man when they make a religion. We'll get to that when we present.
Well, what would you like to do, brother? You would like to play some of these debates so people can see what happened in a debate, or you want to present your, I know you have a PowerPoint ready because you always do.
Yeah, we can start by showing, give some people some context as to why we're here tonight. And then if there's anything in between that you want me to pause and ask or
Yeah.
talk about, we can do that. And then once we get through that, I'll present my end. And again, my end is going to be specifically about what the religion itself teaches, portrays, and believes. And then I presume that Stephen and Yana will present the contemporary issues, the modern rabbis, the books and the sources they've presented, because they're the far better expert in that area than I am.
Which is?
Yes, the theory of practice of universal ethics. Yeah, the Noahide laws. So yes, that's where you two come in for the contemporary part of it. Yeah.
Okay, brother. So go ahead. You're very skilled in sharing screen, so I rely on you.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share here. And we'll get this out of the way. Do we all see line of fire, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, we can see him.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me make sure. Oops. I don't think I shared the volume. Let me reshare again just to make sure. Yeah, I need to share computer sound. There we go. Oh. Oh, it's asking for permission again.
Okay,
Don't
Stephen.
need permission.
Yeah, so maybe, no, not from you, Steve. It's from my computer. So it's not going to let me share the audio.
Okay.
I may have to give you the link and you may have to play and share it. I can share my PowerPoint, but for some reason, it never lets me share the audio when we get together.
All right. Send me that link real quick and I'll see if I can do that.
Okay. Let me go ahead and put that. Sorry about that, everyone.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not easy.
Just don't
Figure all this out. Well, anyway, in the meantime, I'm going to be talking. Dr. Brown's points are also that supposedly Jews that are friends to Christians do not consider Christians idolaters. I don't know if you know this, Brother Perez, but Dr. Brown is big on this, saying that they have this idea of shituv. And he's citing, I think, Amir, Tosefus. He's citing like maybe two sources. Novak.
Which is interesting because I saw that in your interview. I'm sorry to interrupt, but David Novak is an ordained conservative rabbi. He's now the president of the Union of Traditional Judaism, which is a very far left modern Orthodox organization that I'm familiar with. I've done some work with them in the past before I got saved. And so what he ultimately did is he's originally ordained conservative, and all they did is what I did. They took a private smicha from David Weiss Halivni, who reordained them. So David Weiss Halivni, just a short background, he was a rabbi and a Jew from Eastern Europe, escaped the times of the Holocaust, made it to the United States. And he started teaching Talmud at Jewish Theological Seminary, the conservative seminary of Judaism in New York. But then once they allowed women rabbis, that's where he said, okay, they crossed the line, and he went and started the Union for Traditional Judaism, this kind of bridge between modern Orthodoxy and the conservative. And so it's interesting that the rabbis, at least that he's citing as scholarly work, are ordained rabbis that by nature reject a literal oral tradition and the authority of the rabbis themselves. So that would be the equivalent of me going to a lesbian Episcopalian bishop to find out about Christianity. It makes no sense to cite these rabbis. You have to cite rabbis that actually believe in the religion as it's stated.
Right, exactly. So it's all deception. Do you agree? I don't think that Dr. Brown have done really good research and his homework to a great detail in this particular subject.
Well, I'm sure he has to know that David Novak is at least ordained, and perhaps he got reordained later by David Weiss Halivni. But nonetheless, the original point is that these rabbis that he's citing in conservative and Reform Judaism are technically not rabbinic Judaism to those that it matters to those that actually observe Orthodox rabbinic Judaism. And so again, to cite these men as scholars is one thing as historians, but to cite them as believers in rabbinic Judaism, well, that's the whole point, that there's three different movements, because these other two movements reject the literal point of an oral tradition. So again, it's almost ridiculous to cite these men.
Yes, and also
they technically don't believe.
And let's remind Dr. Brown that who is around president every year, these are not Novak type of rabbis.
Exactly.
These are Chabad rabbis.
Reform rabbis. They're Chabad
Exactly.
or Orthodox or Hasidic rabbis, people that actually follow the religion.
Yes. So it makes no sense, very deceptive. And then he presents it as fact, and this is what's deceptive about this.
Okay,
anyway.
I do not have the video because I have not received it as of yet. But
it's in the chat. If you click on chat,
okay.
I put the link in the chat.
That's why I couldn't find it. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I mentioned that.
That's okay. I'm not familiar very much about Zoom is the problem for me. I got to figure out where the chat is. Well, I see it. Chat. Okay.
And then later, maybe we can talk about Shituf, because this is another Dr. Brown's huge point, that rabbis allow Shituf, which is partnership. And supposedly Christianity comes under that. He does not agree that Schneerson was teaching that Christians are idolaters. Well, we will prove otherwise. I sent you, brother, the quotations by Schneerson. He definitely has sources in there where he agrees that Christians are indeed idolaters, and every Jew believes that, every single one, that Christianity is idolatry, because their main scholars are Rashi, Maimonides, Rambam, and they're reading their books, and they're these type of sages who agree that Christianity is idolatry. Now, I agree with the Shituf part that they do cite Shituf, but I think it's huge deception, because the way they explain it is that Christians or heathens can have partner of God, but they can't pray to the partner or worship the partner. So it's almost like Shituf idea applies only to cults in Christianity that do not agree with Jesus being divine, Son of God, or the rabbis are actually going to, it's only a temporary deception, to just kind of lure in the Christians into the movement, where they finally are going to persuade them that Jesus is not Messiah.
You absolutely hit it right on the head. Let me make this very clear for our listeners. There's only two religions for the rabbis of Orthodox Judaism and of rabbinic literature, specifically the Talmud. There's rabbinic Judaism under the auspices of the rabbis, and then there's Noahidism under the auspices of the rabbis. Yes. So all the Shituf, all this other stuff, this is a spiritual psyop to get you in. Once you're in, it's always under the rabbis, and they're the voice until their Messiah king, i.e. the Antichrist, arrives, eliminates that religion, and makes a new messianic era, which is under him and the worship of him. So guys, wake up. These are all spiritual psyops. I'm telling you, this is how they taught it. This is the experience, and we're going to see that that's the case through these sources. You're absolutely right. You hit it right on top. Now, whether Michael Brown wants to accept that, or anyone else, that's irrelevant. The point is the rabbis accept that. They believe that of themselves, and that is what they teach in the religion, and that's what we're going to prove tonight.
Yes. And not only that they teach it, brother, this is like they have influence in governments.
Well, they're practicing it in plain daylight. We're going to see that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very good. All right, Stephen, were you able to?
Oh, no, I don't know how to share the screen at all. What minute mark would you like to start on now?
It only lasts 18 minutes, so it starts off, and then it's just a matter of how far you want to go in, and if you want to stop and discuss something.
Sure, why not? Right, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Debate. Just a little background. Many of you know my own story. I did not grow up in a religious Jewish home, fairly nominal, bar mitzvah at the age of 13, but just knew a little Hebrew, little Bible. Again, not a religious Jew. And I don't remember hearing about the 7 laws of Noah growing up. Once I became a believer in Jesus and was talking with rabbis, Orthodox rabbis and different ones, they would say, well, look, Gentiles, the Goyim, all they have to do is keep the 7 laws of Noah, and they'll be considered righteous in God's sight. And according to Jewish tradition, laws were given to Adam and then expanded to Noah, saying you can't worship idols, you can't blaspheme, you can't steal, commit adultery, you have to establish courts of justice, can't eat the limb of a living animal, these basic laws of humanity. And that if people live by those, then God considers them righteous, and that's fine.
Can you pause there?
Jew, you have to keep the 600.
Pause, Stephen.
Okay, so notice what he's saying. He's saying that from the very beginning, he didn't grow up religious. He either grew up in some either conservative or reform type of a situation or community. Again, let me express that even though these movements are claiming to be rabbinic forms of rabbinic Judaism, to the Orthodox mindset, they are apostates. They reject the literal receiving of not just a written Torah, but an oral Torah. And so remember how I described the 3 movements before, right? The Orthodox say, the Moses went up the mountain to receive the Torah and the oral Torah. Conservatives digress and they say, a Moses may have gone up a mountain to receive a written and oral Torah. Reform say, this probably didn't happen, but we're going to respect it because this is our tradition. You see the digression. So right away, he's telling you he didn't grow up in a Jewish community, which is 90% of the Jewish community that rejects their own God, their own religion. So that is key.
Yes, and also I would like to point out that he's just telling, these are the 7 laws, basic, very, common sense. And when you keep them, you're considered righteous. What he's omitting is that there are sub-laws to these laws that are interpreted by rabbis, and in violation of any of these laws, the punishment is decapitation according to Talmud. He's not mentioning that.
And he wouldn't have gotten that far because of the movements of Judaism he's in, because again, even those rabbis that he grew up with would not even have known what we're talking about, because they've already rejected their own faith, their own religion, and their own authority for psychology and philosophy.
Okay. No.
And this is why it's foreign to him. He's just not saying that part because he knows that now. He knows very well what we're saying now, but he doesn't mention that part. And that's, a little deceiving from my point of view. I don't know if that's intended. I can't argue one way or another, but that it's deceiving, yes. Yes,
wow. Very good. Let's keep playing,
Command. So they were saying, look, you live as a Jew, let the Gentiles just keep these laws. And that's how I heard about it over the years. And then, a couple of years back, I get a phone call one day on the show. A woman calls in and says, is it true that under the 7 laws of Noah, that Jews will start beheading Christians in the years ahead? First time I heard that, and I said, that's completely crazy. I responded with absolute shock. I said, there's more chance of Santa Claus coming down your chimney on Christmas than that happening. A little did I know that this was something that was being circulated on the internet, that different folks, even with substantial YouTube channels, contacted me and said, you attacked us. How could you say that? So I was absolutely shocked beyond words to hear that people believe this. People said, yeah, guillotines are being sent in, etc. This is going to happen all around the world. So I actually got on a couple of other channels and interacted with folks about this. And in my book, Christian Anti-Semitism, Exposing the Lies in Today's Church, I took a whole chapter to deal with what I called Noahide law hysteria. And one of the websites that I cited as an example of this hysteria was stopnoahidelaw.blogspot.com. And that is put out by Vincent Bruno, who then reached out to us after seeing the quotes in the book and said he'd like to debate this subject with me. So Vincent is a Noahide researcher and blogger. Again, his website, stopnoahidelaw.blogspot.com, the site that I cited to say this is crazy and absurd. He's trying to attempt to have Public Law 102-14 and other laws that recognize the Noahide laws repealed. He's brought the anti-Noahide mission into the public with protests arranged in the New York City Port Authority and Grand Central Station. He's interviewed different rabbis on the subject and debated members of the Jewish community. So he's quite passionate about this. And I'll say this last thing and then want to turn things over to him to begin to share his story. The United States government, different world organizations have signed off saying, yes, we recognize the Noahide laws, meaning this is a way that Jews, Christians, Muslims, all agreeing on these points can affirm these are good moral standards for everyone to live by, and therefore we agree with them. We say amen to them, which in the eyes of people like Vincent Bruno is kind of like signing a death sentence on ourselves. So having said that, set all this up, Vincent, welcome to the Line of Fire. Please share with our listening and viewing audience how it is that you yourself got interested in this subject.
It started out, of course, you always hear things about Jews, and Jews want to take over the world, and they own the banks, and they own this, and they have lots of power, and all this other kind of stuff. And I didn't really know much to think about that, but I knew I didn't want to. The thing was that I didn't want to get into something, well, there's a lot of Jews, maybe they're disproportionate in Hollywood, they're disproportionate in the government, they're disproportionate in the banks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have this agenda. It could just be, something in their culture. They focus more on intellectualism or something like that. And so I didn't want to say the Jews were up to something about world domination just based on their overrepresentation in certain areas. But I was curious about the idea, and I was wondering if there was something a lot more black and white and a little bit more objective than what I'd heard. And so I did research, and then I came across the Noahide laws, and that put things into perspective for me about those types of claims, even though I still don't go down that road about banks and Hollywood and the government, or at least not to the degree that most people do. Through the Noahide laws, I have come to believe that there is an agenda, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right, so just to clarify, when you talk about Jewish world domination, obviously through Jewish history, Jews have been cast out of different nations and have been disproportionately killed, slaughtered, persecuted. And if you go around the world, you have Jewish populations where they have no influence in government and are oppressed peoples. So you're in your mind, is there some connection between Jewish world domination? You see, you're not embracing it as a whole, but in your mind, are the 7 laws of Noah somehow connected to an attempt for Jewish world domination?
Listen, before we continue on with this, there is something I think that's important that we should address real quick in relation to what Dr. Brown said at the beginning when he made it look like the Noahide laws are something that all governments can agree upon. There's no, he talks about guillotines and almost like that's an absurdity. All right. I want to show you guys real quick I'm going to show you two things real quick. This is from, of course, first I want you to be able to see what this is from. All right. This is the Sansino Talmud. This is the Sanhedrin book, which is just one book for the Sanhedrin only. This way you guys can freeze your screen. You can see this for yourself. So as you play the video, you could take and pause this, read this for yourself. But
It's kind of blurry.
okay, let me back it up just a little bit. Maybe it's too close to the screen.
Mm-mm.
But otherwise, I'll take and I'll read it. You can probably blow it up later. This is on page 381. And Dr. Brown makes it look like that the Noahide laws are just some good, righteous, moral laws that all the nations agree upon, right?
Yeah.
But there's no, and then he kind of mocks the idea of beheading. It states here, if a heathen, and in brackets, son of Noah, blasphemed, employing substitutes of the ineffable name. That's like Jehovah, Yahweh, Jehovah, okay? He is, in the opinion of the sages, punishable by death. Why so? Because it is written, as well the stranger as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of the Lord, shall be put to death. All right. Now, I'm going to read to you one other section here. All this is under the Noahide laws section here in 56 B and A of the, and even in 57A of the Talmud, where a lot of this is recorded. This is only one place it's recorded in the Talmud. It's recorded in other places as well. But I want to read a little portion of this too, for those of you that are able to see this on your screen. It says, Joseph said, the scholar stated, a heathen is executed for the violation of 3 precepts: adultery, bloodshed, and blasphemy. All 3 of those are Noahide precepts. Is that correct? Well, he just said that they're to be executed, okay, for the guilt of those. And that's just a little small portion on that. If either one of you want to comment before we, or if you want me to continue the video, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted to kind of set the stage for that what Dr. Brown said is in fact totally false.
Agreed completely. And we'll see other sources that I'll present as well that help facilitate what you showed. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You want to keep listening? So yeah, let's do that.
I think that that's at least the final goal. Yeah, I mean, we can debate on how much power they have right now, but the ultimate destiny, yes, I think that that's the ultimate end of Judaism, yes.
Oh, okay. So the fact that I've never met a Jew on the planet in 66 years, including religious Jews, secular Jews, and everything in between, that would ever think for a split second that 7 laws of Noah have anything to do with Jewish world domination makes me curious as to how you could come up to such different conclusions. I mean, I've even had Orthodox rabbis write to me in recent years saying, what's all this 7 laws of Noah stuff? Where are people getting this from? I mean, they're as baffled as I am. So please explain.
I did want to talk about that, and that you find it very hard to see how anyone can come to this conclusion. I went through your book. I went through the chapter on Noahide law, and I took notes on everything that you said.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start with the concept of whether Christianity is idolatry or not, because your main issue or your main point is that Christians are not under any kind of threat because Christianity is not idolatry. First of all, there are plenty of rabbis and plenty of Noahides that do say Christianity is idolatry. I don't know how much you hang out in the Noahide world or go to Noahide websites or listen to Noahide conferences online, but plenty of Noahides are saying that Christianity is idolatry. And I would say more so than the rabbis do because they're ex-Christians. I've heard more Noahides.
Right, so you're talking about Gentiles in the Noahide. You're not talking about rabbi. Right. So I'm not even, that's immaterial to me. In other words, what Noahides do are people that reformer Christians that now say they're following the 7 laws of Noah. That's unrelated. That's not historic Judaism.
How is that unrelated? I mean, these are the people that would be enforcing the Noahide laws. Jews don't enforce them.
Hang on. Jews don't enforce them. That was my whole point.
But
This is not a law to be enforced, and these Noahides are fringe groups with no power influence over anybody.
But the point is that the Jews are commanded to influence the Gentiles to observe the Noahide laws, and that does include decapitation. So
all right. Okay, let's sort this out.
Okay, I'm going to have to pause this again, and because there's something I need to share with you guys that I've not spoke about publicly as of yet. Now, Dr. Brown makes this just jumps on Vincent because he thinks he's just got just slugged the ball out of the ballpark here. Oh wow! You see, you admit only the Gentiles are the ones going to carry out the Noahide laws. It's not the Jews in the first place. Well, one of the things that I have been able to point out is that the 21st degree Freemason, which some would argue is a Gentile Christian organization, which is not Christian at all. The Freemasons are not Christian by any stretch of the imagination. But a lot of people would attribute that to a Christian type of cult, I guess is the best way to put it. And therefore, in the Freemasonry, the 21st degree Freemason is known as a Noahide. The Justice of Noahide, I believe, is actually what he is called, which would, in essence, carry out the orders or the enforcement of the Noahide laws. But what a lot of people fail to recognize, and this is well with Dr. Brown, is that it was the Jewish, I'll actually have to pull his name up here in just a moment while you guys are speaking on these things, but it was the Jewish influence that infiltrated into the Freemasonry that wrote the bylaws of Freemasonry back in the 1700s, and they're the ones that established the 21st degree Mason as a Noahide, and of course that he would be the executioner that would carry out those laws. And I said that Deborah, though, I said the only thing that I see with her is that she quotes the documents of the Rothschilds. She's not saying something that's not already quoted in the documents. And I was cautioned immediately, said, even though the Rothschilds may be documenting these things, you have to understand that is a pet peeve for them, for anybody to quote it outside the way they do. And the subject came up of the Noahide laws in our conversation in the Freemasonry, and I was told that the Rothschilds, they control Freemasonry 100%, and they are considered to be level 6 entities, which is one step from being the highest that you can be in world domination. All right, so yes, the Jews are definitely in control of the enforcement of the Noahide laws. Even if they're not the executioner per se, they're the ones that control who is determined is going to be executed. And as Brother Perez will clearly show you, it is quoted relentlessly by the Orthodox community.
Yeah. So what I think happened here is that Vincent was saying that it will be Gentiles enforcing it. I really believe it's the Jews who will be enforcing it, because Jews are teaching that they're going to be, they are the light of the world. And in the book of Jewish Utopia, they're clearly saying that out of Zion shall come a law, and it will be reestablished Sanhedrin in the future. The United Nations will dissolve, and international law will move to Zion. Now they're talking future in their utopia, okay? That's their goal, just like Vincent said, that's the ultimate goal. And they're going to control international law. And under that law, every single city and village will have to have their own Noahide courts. Now, of course, Gentiles might be employed in these Noahide courts, but it will be all under direction of the rabbis from Israel. And this is what Dr. Brown is totally, he didn't even allow Vincent to move on and explain his position further. So that's what I think happened. What do you think, Brother Perez?
Yes, that's exactly what happens, and we're about to see it's going to start getting really hot between the two of them, and so we'll begin to see that unfortunate
Mhm.
discourse between the two of them, and
Yeah.
I won't spoil the surprise at the end.
Okay. Okay. Well, go ahead, Steve. Let's just watch it through.
Let's start here. My principal argument in the chapter is not that Christianity is not idolatry. There's been a debate in Rabbinic Judaism over that, and there's a debate to this day, as I document in the book. Principal point was that the 7 laws have nothing to do with Jewish world domination. This is simply how. Let me just finish. This is simply how Jews believe that Gentiles need to live to be considered righteous in God's sight. That's it. It's theoretical law.
Which includes them decapitating each other.
Vincent, listen, I invited you on the air because I thought that you said you've read thousands of articles, done all these interviews, you have all this information. Okay, give me one instance in history where there was Jewish leadership in any country in the world, and they said, if you are a Christian, you are therefore an idolater and should be, and we will behead you. Just one instance in history.
Well, this is I did make a point to that, in that there's never been an instance in history where there was an organized attempt by Jews to promote the Noahide laws. That has not happened ever in history, but it's happening now. It's
Okay. Can we pause this?
And they have.
Okay, so Dr. Brown is saying, oh, give me example from history. When did Jews ever do that? Well, let's remember times of Jesus, when Pharisees were ruling over the people, right? They had religious courts, they were ruling over the people, and that was their domination of the area, of the certain area. Okay, and we know that when Jesus came, they killed him, and we know that what happened in 70 AD was judgment. They were dispersed. But also we know that from prophecy, they're going to come back. They will want to go back to power. This never ended, that they're kind of like wanting to be in power again. Okay, so when Dr. Brown says, give me example from history, because they were thrown out of countries, they were, the thing is that no, since the 70 AD, they of course never had world domination, but that's very deceptive what he's saying, because this is their ultimate goal for the future. I mean, their whole teaching of the Talmud, the writings of the sages, you have Shulchan Aruch, they always taught secretly in the synagogues what will be the messianic era like, and how they're going to, what redemption means for them, that God is going to regather them and give them world domination, where they're going to rule over Gentiles. This is their ultimate future goal. It doesn't matter that last 2,000 years they were dispersed and they didn't try to have this world domination. I mean, this is something for the future that they believe they're going to get in a very near future. In fact, Chabad organization believe that now they are in Messianic era already, with Pearson being the Messiah.
Could we not then point to what happened to the Russians, the Christian Russians, how many 600 and something million Christians that were put to death? Was that
66 million or something like that?
All right, is that not a clear that was done by Jews?
Yeah, by Bolsheviks.
Bolshevik revolution is clearly a Noahide genocide. Although they weren't out there decapitating per se, the fact of what they were doing was slaughtering Christians, because why? They were using the cover of their communism to be able to carry it out. That's the only difference. Now,
communism is Judaism. Okay.
And that's right. Michael Brown cannot sit here and tell me that like there's some kind of big conspiracy theory or something, because I know that under Barack Hussein Obama, he ordered 1 million guillotine blades in from Mexico, and then also parted out all the other parts in order to create guillotines for carrying out these particular laws that they have on the books there. That's because I know the inside source, and I know that firsthand, not secondhand, not pass me down. So Dr. Brown, you need to definitely step up to the debate and not cower down on this.
So what do you think, Brother Perez, on the fact that he says that there has been never instance in history, like if that should prove something?
Yes, it's one of the few straw men that he creates. His rebuttal to what you said is going to say, well, I've never seen a country where Jews are in complete sovereignty and ruling over themselves plus the world, that he's going to get specific, right? And so the response back to that is, it doesn't matter. The point that matters is that the rabbis believe this, they taught this, they wrote this down, they speak of discrimination against Jews, and that is their plan to dominate through these Noahide laws. And we're going to see that the rabbis that are speaking are not just fringe rabbis that he poo-poos to the side because it's not his rabbinical circle. These are the sages of the text that, although he doesn't recognize as an authority in his Christianity, but he gives lip service and patronizes in supporting Christ-rejecting Jews. And so, again, it doesn't matter whether they've existed in complete sovereignty and domination in the past. It doesn't matter if Dr. Brown can fathom a future. The point is, they believe it, and Jesus believed it. And we're going to see citations from the Bible where he warns us specifically about the governments and the Christ-rejecting Jews turning us even into their own synagogues. Is that a metaphor? Is that an analogy? No.
It's a prophecy.
We'll see this as I go through. I'm kind of dropping little planting seeds of my presentation here, but we'll see that. Again, you're right. It doesn't matter what he thinks or what he can fathom. The point is, these rabbinic Jews believe it, and that's what they're interested in. And that's what we're going to prove again.
Exactly. We can keep moving, Stephen.
Come to a point in their history where they are able to unfold this. Rabbi Schneerson said it used to be dangerous, but it's not dangerous anymore.
And what did he promote? What did Rabbi Schneerson promote?
Rabbi Schneerson said that if you can't implement the Noahide laws through force, do it through pleasantry and kindness. He also said that there's no need for a Sanhedrin, meaning there's no need for a theocracy in Israel. There's no need for a Jewish court. Gentiles are commanded to do this on their own in all eras, in all places, and Jews are here to influence them to
influence them. Rabbi Schneerson Vincent, listen. Rabbi Schneerson, for a split second, never advocated, hinted at violence towards Gentiles.
No, he did. I have the quotes right here.
Okay, so let's get the exact source. Okay, I need the exact source. When it was said, and here, let's just stop for a minute. You have made the utterly absurd and actually slanderous comment that Jews want to start beheading Christians because they're not keeping the Noahide laws, and they're going to do it. It is utterly absurd. It is beyond fear-mongering. You could make a better argument for Martians coming to decapitate mice, okay? So when you make charges like that are so bizarre and so out there, and even said,
it's not bizarre because it's not bizarre. Look, you not made fun of someone, but you pointed out as if it was somebody was being insane because they showed that Noahide.org listed decapitation as a commandment under the Noahide laws. Look, you can go onto Noahide websites and see, yes, they demand decapitation.
Rabbis, I don't care what Gentile Christian. All right, tell you what, Vincent, we got a break coming up. You'll start when we come back. I am not concerned with what former Christians who are Gentiles are. I do. We are talking about, Vincent. Give you one more. I'm going to give you one more shot, and then we're done. We got a break. Give you one more shot. We'll be right back.
Wow. Okay. So he never allowed him to explain anything. He's diverting back. He's not concerned what Gentiles are saying. Vincent was saying that it is Schneerson who was promoting these Noahide laws, said that it needs to be enforced by every Jew, proselyted by every Jew to the Gentiles, and then there is no need for even Sanhedrin officially to enforce them. And we know that Schneerson really did preach that, okay? So it's not about Gentiles enforcing it. As I said, it's about what they have in their Jewish utopia. They want the world government out of Zion, theocracy, where the international law is under the rabbis, under Judaic rabbis, and they have a power of interpretation. And these are the people who are around the United States president every year signing that this nation, the United States of America, is based on Noahide laws. And Dr. Brown is absolutely not paying attention to the fact that Noahide laws, as interpreted by the rabbis, require decapitation for violation of these laws, and he's totally avoiding this particular fact. Anyway, Brother Perez, what do you have to say on this?
Yes, I agree. I mean, I can't speak specifically to Rabbi Schneerson. I wasn't a follower of him, but I trust the research that you have provided. But again, you know, at the end of the day, if what Rabbi Schneerson, assuming all that is correct, the source of his beliefs are coming from the religious text. And that's the root of it all. That's what Michael Brown is just swaying to the side, where we're getting this from Alex Jones or some crazy conspiracy online, like if we're sitting in a basement somewhere. No, that you know, that's not what's going on. At least from our perspective, we're looking at it as the source is the religion itself. The source are the rabbis and their anti-Gentile agenda within their own text. And again, it doesn't matter if the majority of Jews don't know about it or don't believe that. The point is that is the religion, right? When we say Jesus Christ is God, it doesn't matter if 90% of liberal Christianity says he's not. The point is the religion of Christianity says Jesus is God, and you got to go with the text, not with liberal opinions of a religion that these people don't follow anyway. And so I keep hammering that point home.
Yeah, well, let me remind people that Schneerson was a head of Chabad organization who started proselyting Noahide laws and influencing government. The cult grew in importance and influence. They are active in almost all countries, including China, Russia, Japan, North Korea now, even communist countries, okay, Europe, West Europe, East Europe, United States, everywhere. They are everywhere, and they're influencing governments and politicians and presidents. Now, Rabbi Schneerson, his main text is Talmud and the Chabad Hasidic text called Tanya.
Correct.
Tanya, the very, very ugly, nasty, racist type of text, okay? That Rabbi Schneerson specifically taught that all the Gentiles' souls originate from 3 satanic spheres, and that all the Jewish souls originate from divine upper spheres. He also taught that the only reason the world was created for the sake of the Jew, and the Gentiles were created only to serve the Jews. So these are the teachings of Rabbi Schneerson. Now, he was only writing it down in Hebrew, never in English. But thanks to Israel Shahak, who translated his work, who was a professor at the Hebrew University in Israel. He is deceased now, but he translated his work into English. This is when the first time we could see what Schneerson really thought of Gentiles, thanks to that Jewish man there. Okay, so yes, we are talking about extremely racist, highly racist Rabbi Schneerson.
And because he said a few nice things once in a while doesn't take from the fact that he said a lot of bad things too. And,
Exactly.
and he's just as revered in the Sephardic world, the Persian world, the Mizrahi world. He's not just limited to Ashkenazim and Chabad. He's revered and respected as much as Baba Saleh from the Sephardic or any other revered Hasidic master or Sephardic, Chacham. So this idea that these are just fringe groups,
No.
I'm not going to choose your rabbis because my liberal rabbis tell me different. It makes no sense. Again, you have to go with the rabbis that actually believe in the religion. You can't go with rabbis that are philosophers over coffee, in Tel Aviv. You got to go with the guys that actually practice the faith.
Yes, and he met with Netanyahu. Netanyahu met Schneerson.
Oh, yes.
And he was encouraging Netanyahu to bring the era of the Moshiach, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Messianic era. And this Naftali Bennett that we just talked the other day with Steve on the news is he has an article online that openly admits that his religious beliefs are influenced by Chabad, which is the Schneerson Chabad organization. So we can see that, if something looks like a duck, quacks as a duck, walks as a duck, what is it? It's a duck, all right? So we can see that they are preparing infrastructure for their utopia, So,
and the fact that we even got to the book Jewish Utopia or any other writings that are similar is because they looked back at the religious text just like we are to expose that situation.
Yes. Okay, should we keep listening? Yes, let's listen.
Okay, one quick thing there. This,
Sure.
I believe, Jan, is what you're talking about. The lessons in Tanya. This is if I'm not mistaken, this is Schneerson's translation.
Yeah, this is the Chabad main text.
Yeah, we have all the books that they use, or not all of them, but many of them. And one other thing too, again, just as a confirmation, this is under the Talmud section there. We're going to be looking at I want to just quickly read this on the bottom. All right. Now, this is actually being quoted by rabbis more of this era. All right. So therefore, Dr. Brown cannot say, oh, well, maybe some rogue rabbi from back in, 2000 years ago. No, this is the opinions of the rabbis in the Talmud in the modern era. They're also commenting on the Noahide law section here. They say, these commandments may be regarded as the foundation of all human and moral progress. Judaism has both a national and universal outlook in life. Now, they're talking about the Noahide laws, okay? This is in the section of Noahide laws, and this is part of the subsections. In the former sense, it is particularistic, setting up a people distinct and separate from others by its peculiar religious law. But in the latter, it is recognizes the moral progress, and it's hard for me to see with these glasses. They're not strong enough. Concomitant, divine love, approval are the privilege and obligation of all mankind. And hence the Talmud lays down, notice that the Talmud lays down the 7 Noachian precepts by the observance of which all mankind may attain spiritual perfection, and without which moral death must inevitably ensue. That perhaps as the idea underlying the assertion that a heathen is liable to death for the neglect of any of these.
Wow. Their main text teaches that, right? Very nice. So,
and that is more of the modern rabbis. Okay, so Dr. Brown, don't try to play the games that you're playing.
Yes. So let's continue listening to what happened to Vincent there.
Okay.
Fear mongering and spreading. I'm speaking with Vincent Bruno of StopNoahideLaw.blogspot.com, one of the websites that I cited as fear mongering and spreading all kinds of nonsense about the 7 laws of Noah. And things getting a little bit heated, which is fine. Obviously, I think this is crazy, and Vincent thinks my opposition to it is terribly misguided. Vincent, the whole issue is Jewish law and what rabbis say, not what people who have joined.
We're not talking about Jewish law.
You say
We're
pause
talking
it?
about Noahide law.
Did you say pause it?
No, I said exactly. Holy issue is a Jewish law and what rabbis teach, and then Vincent is. I guess Vincent just didn't know how to deal with him at this point. You know, he was
Sorry,
too.
I'm coming in from the perspective in the way that it's done. I'm not coming.
What do you mean
from
the way it's done? The way,
that
where is it being
not
done?
You influence the Gentiles to do this to each other. It doesn't work the way
No, you
you're
don't
saying.
influence. There's not a syllable in any Noahide law literature written by a Jew on the planet that says you
Sure.
encourage Gentiles to behead each other over
Let-
this. Not
let
a
me
not
read
a syllable,
Rabbi
sir.
Shinson.
I guess I didn't bother to listen, or he didn't listen to what I just read.
Not a syllable.
We must do everything possible to ensure the 7 Noahide laws are observed. If this can be accomplished through force or through kinder and more peaceful means, through explaining to non-Jews that they should accept God's wishes.
Right, you read that. What's the source of that quote, sir?
My Jewish learning, the Noahide laws, my Jewish learning.
Right, and Rabbi Schneerson, you're saying encourage Gentiles, and if we can't encourage them to do it through kindness, we use force, including beheading. Please just show me that somewhere. Show me.
No, you are pretending as though beheading is not one of the commandments. It is.
Vincent,
Observance.
give me
if
one
you're asking
one example of
observe-
Jew. Vincent, let's be really simple here, okay? I don't want to waste my viewers' time. I thought you actually had substance here. I am not concerned with
the
what.
one who does not understand the Noahide laws. Obviously, if you're asking me to defend the position that rabbis, you're asking me to defend a position that doesn't exist. Rabbis are not here to enforce the Noahide laws. That's not how the Noahide laws work. And I'm not going to argue.
Okay, so show me that. Okay, so there is no discussion then, because that's everything that I wrote about. That the rabbis are not saying this. That Jews will not be doing this. If Vincent, if you have any integrity, Vincent, if you have Vincent, if you have any integrity whatsoever, you know everything I have been speaking against is the lie that Jews are going to start beheading Christians under the Noahide laws. I've been very explicit and very clear on that. So
you're wasting your time going after false arguments that nobody's making.
All right, so then we're done. We're done. We're good. We're done. You don't claim. I still say the website is completely ridiculous and absurd, but you don't claim that Jews will be doing this. You're making the argument that Jews
influence the Gentiles to do it.
Okay, so show me one syllable. I'll give you this last shot. Then we're done.
No.
Vincent,
you don't understand.
I give you one more shot. Give me,
when they say
Vincent. Give me.
That includes decapitation.
Vincent, give me one
I have an
example of a rabbi.
Okay. Now,
all right.
I have an article. He didn't say decapitation, but he said the Noahide laws are still pending.
That's in the Messianic era. That's when, in Jewish view, when the Messiah comes. Okay, Vincent. I'll tell you what. We're done. This is improper.
That's fine. Let's just end this. Brother Perez, my question to you, do you believe that rabbis are not going to enforce it, that they're only influencing Gentiles to do it to each other? I mean, I guess this is what Vincent was trying to say.
Yes, I was surprised by that statement. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and ask him what he meant. I would hope he didn't mean what sounds like what he said, right?
Right, because obviously it is rabbis who are requiring this because that's what their religion requires. It's not the Gentiles, but I'm not saying that in some future messianic time, what they call messianic for themselves, that the Noahide courts are set up, that they're going to employ Noahides that will be beheading, because as Stephen said, Freemasons, 21st degree Freemasons are by their own interpretation executioners, and there are Noahides. They're called Noahides. So Jews are known to use others as their scapegoat, so they can hide in a back, so nobody can point at them. And I know that this is true. So go ahead, brother. Now, how about if we give you the platform, Brother Perez, right now, and you talk about what you saw, what you think, what your arguments are, what your research is.
Yeah, so what I did was I heard some of the concerns that Dr. Brown has on this video. And then, as I said in the beginning, I went back to your original interview with Steve and Dr. Brown. And I watched through it again and took down and narrowed, I think, down to about 3 concerns that Michael Brown has. And so in the following document that I'll share that I typed up from my notes, I'll preface it by saying these are officially my words. So Hannah and Steve may or may not agree with some things that I'm saying. So just to not to get Israeli News Live in trouble or anything,
No, it's okay.
but I don't think there'll be much that you would disagree, if not at all. But just want to preface that for your audience, right?
It's okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share this. And again, what I want to preface again is I'm not talking about the little Jewish grandma who's sitting in the pew on Shabbat service, has no idea what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Again, we're talking about the people
So
that
true.
consider the religion very, very seriously, and the ones that are at the top, the elite that have this plan. And those Jews, especially conservative and reform, are going to go on the chopping block with us just as easily. And so they need this warning as much as Christians do at the same time. So with that said, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and do we see my screen now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, so let me go ahead here. So I have it here, responses to Michael Brown's concerns about exposing the 7 Noahide laws. So it is a few pages. I'm going to urge your patience, but I think it'll be worthwhile as we go through. Okay, so Michael Brown's point number 1. Okay, and so this is my writing of my summary of what I think his points are. These are not exact quotes, but this is what I gathered. The US, the Vatican, and other governments or religious institutions are signing the Noahide laws because the laws have been presented to them by the rabbis as common ground, a list of regulations that all could agree on. How do we go from this simple idea of signing a common agreement to the conspiracy of a secret agenda and secret intention on the part of Orthodox rabbis to dominate these organizations or the world? So here's my initial response to that concern. The rabbinic literature itself is the source, okay? So the rabbinic literature teaches that observance of the 7 Noahide laws are taught directly from the rabbis and are an obligation for the nations to follow on pain of death. The citations below are obviously not presented to the organizations mentioned above, which US, Vatican, or whoever they may be, which is a deception from the inception on the part of these contemporary Orthodox rabbis. So for Orthodox rabbis to claim ignorance of such citations that we'll see, that's just a complete farce. And so here we go. This is from, again, Sepharia.org. It's by Jews, for Jews, to keep Jews Jews, right? This is not Luis Perez's translation. So here you have Sanhedrin 56a. Notice it says here, the sages taught, Tanu Rabbanan. So for Michael Brown to go back to the Old Testament, or Rabbi Tuvia Singer, or Rabbi Mizrahi, or whoever it may be, trying to scramble and find sources in the Torah itself, it's in vain. Why? Because you have this statement, Tanu Rabbanan, the sages have taught. Remember, we looked at a previous citation in Talmud where there's an argument between one rabbi and a group of rabbis and his authority that's coming from God. And even the voice of God comes down and says, I side with this particular rabbi. And that other group of rabbis says, well, we don't listen to the word of God. And God ultimately says he submits to his children for they have defeated him. That's the source of their authority. And so here we have that statement. The sages taught in a Baraita that the descendants of Noah, all of humanity, were commanded to observe 7 mitzvot, and then they go into what these mitzvot are. So here's the source of Noahide laws to begin with. You're not going to find them in the Torah lined up the way that they are here. You might find them sporadically and spread out, but that is the case here. We have to start with the truth here. So are we okay with that so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now look at Maimonides. This is not a fringe rabbi, to borrow the word from Dr. Brown. This is the great Maimonides, his Mishnah Torah, Kings and Their Wars, chapter 9, from the same source, sepharia.org. Look at what he says about the situation. A non-Jew who violates one of the 7 commandments is executed by means of the sword. So give me a source where a Jew promotes this or says this. Well, hello, it's right here. And this is not Rabbi, blank name or nameless rabbi. This is Maimonides, okay? We carry on. The contemporary rabbis are under no obligation to share their secret agenda to their unknowing victims as the goyim, as they call them, that they're conducting negotiations with are not considered human and therefore can be deceived. So
Yes.
the whole point that they're able to deceive and just say, hi, President Carter, hi, President Clinton, or whoever the president may be, is that they're not even considering them as human beings to begin with.
Right.
They can do whatever they wish. Here's the source for that, Baba Metzia 114b, right? We have this explanation, and the quote is very simple. You, the Jewish people, are called man, but Gentiles are not called man. Can you imagine if I said that in the street about Jews? Oh my Lord, I can't even imagine what would happen, right? And notice the key word that they say here for the Gentiles, Ovdei Kochavim, servants of the stars or star worshipers. I was taught, right? I was taught in my lessons that this was code word not just for Gentiles and heathens, as it's translated in different, we saw in Socino and here in Sepharia, but Avdei Kochavim, right? These servants or slaves to the stars, these are Christians in particular. Because remember, we see the wise men as they're coming in one of the Gospels, what are they following? They're following the star to Bethlehem. So see, these are key words that they're not going to tell you up front. They're not going to sit with President Carter or whoever it may be to show these citations, much less explain them. So right away, here's the source for non-Jews not even being human. This is outrageous.
Yes.
I mean, in what sane world could any man, Dr. Brown or whoever it may be, give a justification? What possible context can you give to say, well, silly them, they didn't mean what they said? Really? Are you serious? Wow. I mean, but you hear it all the time. So here we continue. So here's an example of practicing deception. A Jew that is honest and defends a Gentile and secular court, despite not being summoned to do so, and the Gentile is obviously innocent of any crime, the Jew testifying is to be excommunicated from Judaism. This is crazy. Look at the citation, Bava Kama 113b. It says the following: the discussion of legal dealings between Jews and Gentiles, the Gemara relates, Rava declared, and some say that it was Rav Huna who declared, all who ascend upward to Eretz Israel and all who descend downward to Babylonia agree that in the case of a Jew who knows of evidence concerning the legal claim of a Gentile, and the Gentile did not demand from him that he testify, and the Jew nevertheless went and testified for him in a Gentile court against his fellow Jew, we excommunicate him. What is the reason that we excommunicate him? It is because they, the Gentile courts, expropriate money, meaning that they practice eminent domain. So if that's the case, a lot of Jewish lawyers after this video need to quit their jobs because they're defending a lot of non-Jews inside and out in legal courts that obviously can have at any moment declare eminent domain and expropriate money. So there's a lot of Orthodox lawyers who need to quit their job if they're looking at this. And so Dr. Brown might argue, well, this is not the context. That what the context is that you can deceive. And this is the source as to why they extend, by extension, that they can deceive. So these are the sources as to why they're not explaining their agenda, because they feel they don't have to. They're not obligated because you're not a human being if you're a non-Jew. Are we okay so far?
Yes, and all true.
The rabbi's own literature sets the foundation for deception, and yet the above mentioned rabbinic citations among so many more, were never presented to US presidents, the Vatican, and other organizations when they were signing onto these 7 laws, for obvious reasons, of course. So what's the problem, Dr. Brown says? What's the big deal about agreeing to some laws that create a sense of commonality amongst the nations? The problem is not intrinsically the words that make up these laws. The problem is a rabbinic superiority complex, a corpus of men that not only teach to discriminate against non-Jews, not only teach to deceive non-Jews, but do so on the world stage in plain sight, as you have well documented. There's videos out there. It is the irony and the hypocrisy that should statements like the one cited above be made against the Jews, they would cause an uproar of anti-Semitism. And yet when the rabbis make the statements you just read with your own eyes, in the past or now, they somehow get some kind of a pass.
Yes.
And so that's my response to the initial question. What's the big deal? The big deal is that the rabbis have this complex, they know it, and they're hiding it from you, and they can because they don't believe you're a human being.
Right, according to their own laws, right? Yeah, you know, we will keep going on your point number 2. I will now bring up this particular book, the Universal Ethics. Underneath is written Noahide Laws. It's written by Shimon David Cohen, and they are publishing literature. These are universal ethics, no big deal, 7 Noahide laws. They are writing scholarly articles in a very scholarly way. But within this book, if you read it, and if you have time or patience to read this nonsense, okay, you will see that they are defending in here that any Gentile is liable for violation of any of the Noahide laws based on circumstantial evidence only. Listen to this, circumstantial evidence for Gentiles. Do you know what that means? Circumstantial evidence can chop your head off according to universal ethics. Okay, they're also explaining in here that Gentiles can be executed, or they can be judged by 1 judge, but Jews have to be judged by 23. Okay, they're also saying that your own family members, Gentiles, can come against you, and it will be, in court is going to take their testimony. For Jews, this book says, family members cannot come to the court. So this book is explaining what they really mean when they're talking about universal ethics, and how racist this book is, how anti-gentilic this book is. And I guess that that when Dr. Brown was asking, he was asking Vincent, give me one Jew who is saying, here, read this book, Dr. Brown. This Jew here is publishing, it's been published in the United States. Can you imagine if we published, Christians, this kind of book in Israel? That, Jews can be liable in court and punished based on 1 judge, but Gentiles need 23. Can you imagine if any Christian had a signature, I published this book in Israel, and Jews are guilty based on circumstantial evidence, but not the Gentiles? Can you imagine? Just turn it around. So here's the answer. He's not reading, he's not doing his thorough research. But anyway, go ahead.
Let me throw one comment in here, because Dr. Brown really liked to throw off on Vincent Bruno when he made the statement that they're inciting the Gentiles to carry out the thing. And then, so Dr. Brown, quickly to kind of justify the Jewish people, jumps on that little bandwagon and says, see, that's my whole point. The Jews are not the ones doing it. It's the Gentiles. Okay, end of debate, so to speak, right? All right, let me show Dr. Brown something. Okay, Dr. Brown, you claim to be a Christian, all right? And I really want to believe that you are. But I want to show you how you're missing the most important evidence in the New Testament for the very fact of what Vincent Bruno said. He actually cited indirectly the truth of what was written in the New Testament. For example, when the Pharisees brought Jesus out to be condemned, they said, according to our law, he's to be put to death. All right, now you're going to automatically argue, oh, well, that's Jews, that's Jewish issue, that's not Jew and Gentile. No problem. That's not the point, though. The point is, the Pharisees, the Orthodox rabbis of their day, did not want the blood of Jesus on their hand. Yes, they were willing to condemn him to death, but they wanted to incite the Romans to do the dirty work. And they did.
Mhm.
They incited them so much that they said to Pilate, if you do not condemn this man to death, you are no friend of Caesar.
Mhm.
They were going to blackmail this man. They're going to blackmail Pilate so that he carried it out one way or the other. Now, on top of that, now they could say that they weren't really the guilty ones, right? But Peter stands there on the day of Pentecost and said, be it known unto you, O house of Israel, this same Jesus whom you crucified is made both Lord and Christ.
Mhm.
So the blood was still on their hands. It wasn't on Pilate's hands in the statement that was made by Peter, but it was on the hands of the Jewish people. And until they get that blood in their heart, it will remain there. And it's no different with these Noahide laws. You can play your word games all you want, Dr. Brown, and you can sit there and you can tell the people, oh, well, the Jews are not doing it. But historically, even Hitler killing the Jews themselves, not the Gentiles, but the Jews themselves, and the Gentiles, mind you. Hitler was on the puppet string of the Jewish elite.
Rothschilds financed him.
Oh, yes. And not just financed him, he had inner Jewish circles.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so don't play that game. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Brother Perez. Go to point number 2 of Mr. Brown.
Okay, very well. So yes, his second point that I gathered was there has never been a time in recorded history where Jews had political control over nations or the world. Dr. Brown cannot fathom a future time in which Jews dominate the world, implementing their will over non-Jews. And so we kind of touched that earlier, but here's a little bit more specific citations. So my initial response is the following. It doesn't matter if Dr. Brown can't conceptualize a time when Christ rejecting Jews would dominate the world. What matters is that the rabbis believe they will dominate, and Maimonides, again, not a fringe rabbi, taught such a notion. So because Dr. Brown went to Temple Beth Kumbaya when he was growing up, some liberal synagogue, it's irrelevant to the fact that this is what the religion actually believes. And so look at what Maimonides is teaching. In his Mishnah Torah, King and Wars, chapter 10, he says the following: a non-Jew who busied himself with the Torah is liable with his life. So even the ability for a non-Jew just to open the Bible in rabbinic Judaism puts his life at risk. His only goal, or the Gentile's only goal, is that he must involve himself in the 7 commandments only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. This is not some modern rabbi, Tuvia Singer, Rabbi Mizrahi. This is Maimonides.
Yes.
He can't backpedal and say, poo-poo, I don't like this guy, I'm not going to use his quote. Okay, this is a very big rabbi. Let's carry on. Look at what Maimonides further says. In the same Mishnah Torah, the same book, King and Wars, chapter 6, he goes into specific. I would argue this is the parallel with Book of Revelations. Look at what he says. War is not conducted against anyone in the world until they are first offered peace and refuse it. If they make peace and accept the 7 commandments incumbent upon the sons of Noah, Gentiles, in the parentheses, none of them are killed, but they must pay us tribute. So this idea that Jews would never kill if people didn't if they didn't practice the 7 Noahide laws according to the rabbis, well, here it is. This is Maimonides. If they propose to accept upon themselves the payment of tribute, which is taxes, right, your money, but not servitude to us, meaning the Jews, whoever they may be at that time, rabbis or whatever they'll call themselves at that time, or they accept servitude but not the tribute, we ignore their proposal until they accept both. There's no choices here. This is not the kumbaya, come as you are initial statement that they're making now, right? Once you're in, then they tell you what's really going to happen. And so here we go. This is what's going to happen. The servitude referred to here is one of disgrace and is demeaning. They are not to raise their heads up to Israel for any reason. They must be subjugated to us and may never be assigned to a position over us. The tribute they must pay shall be for service of the king. That's the Antichrist from our perspective. This is their Messiah king. And how are those people going to pay with their service? With their bodies and their money. The mark, and you can't buy and you can't sell, right? Sounds familiar?
Yes.
Such as the building of walls and the strengthening of the fortress and the building of the royal palace and the similar. The beast system itself.
Yes.
It's so clear, so clear. Jesus warns us about the Christ rejecting Jews and how they would play a negative role in dominating the world in the end times. Look at all these citations. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils and they will scourge you in their synagogues, deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you. Matthew 24, the sequence is the end times. Mark 13:9, in the synagogues ye shall be beaten. Luke 12:11, unto the synagogues and to the magistrates and the powers, they will bring you unto these people.
Yes.
Luke 21:12, again, they will deliver you up to the synagogues and to prisons. I mean, is this just a metaphor, an analogy? Does synagogue not mean synagogue? I mean, what excuse are they going to give now? What comes next, right? Dr. Brown can't see a time where Jews dominate the world. Which nation is awaiting the Antichrist? And from where will he be ruling from, Dr. Brown? He's not going to be a Mexican guy ruling from Toledo, Ohio, question mark, right? I mean, the Antichrist is obviously going to be a person religious, Christ-rejecting Jews would recognize as Jewish. He's obviously ruling from Jerusalem and will replace rabbinic Judaism with an unholy messianic era, himself as the sole ruler, ushering in the great tribulation for Christians. And so here are some citations, Matthew 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. So I know there's different interpretations, some are more spiritual, some are more literal, but in the case that I'm using it literally, he's standing in the holy place. It's a person. This is Jerusalem. This is not Los Angeles. This is not Miami. This is not New York or Brazil or wherever the case may be. Let's look at Daniel itself, chapter 9. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince, there's that Antichrist, that shall come and shall destroy the city. Well, what city? It's implied, obviously, Jerusalem. And the sanctuary. Well, what sanctuary? The presumed temple that would be there. And the end thereof shall be with flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm, who's the he? This Messiah king of the Jews, right? He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So obviously there's some practicing of this Old Testament religion again. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. So the point that I'm making is you can't see it. Right? Here's Daniel 11, 36, 37. And the king, that's that Messiah that Maimonides is talking about, that king and kings of his wars. He shall do according to his will. He shall exalt himself above every god. He will speak marvelous things against the God of gods. He neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire women, nor regard any God, he shall magnify himself above all. And that's what they're saying. They're saying this whole rabbinic Noahide law is just the inception to get to the point of their King Messiah creating this real Messianic Judaism, this Messianic era, which for us as Christians is obviously the end times, the Great Tribulation. Look at Revelations 13:7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So again, if he's ruling from Israel, if he's ruling from Jerusalem, the whole system is being moved there. And you can't fathom an idea where Jews are in charge. I don't know what to say. And Revelations 24 discusses about those martyrs that are before heaven, and they were martyred because of what? Witnessing Jesus. And how were they martyred? They were beheaded. Just like Maimonides said, just like it's being taught in their own religion. And Jesus here is obviously warning us of what they have planned coming up, because he's obviously God. He can foresee and foreknow all these things that are coming. So again, Jesus has warned us, and Satan, through Maimonides, has given away his game plan in the Mishnah Torah, Kings and Their Wars, paralleling Revelation. So here's my question to Dr. Brown. Can you envision now, Dr. Brown? Is it clear yet? So are we okay there so far?
Yes. Now, when I spoke with Dr. Brown, he said that he actually believes that it will be in Jerusalem, the Antichrist will be there. But he thinks that it is against Jewish law to worship a man, and he will require worship. So Jews are going to wake up. They're going to wake up that, oh, wow, that's false. We are not worshiping a man. That's against our religion. So they're going to wake up, and I guess he's got a theology. That's when they're going to find out that's false and come to Jesus, I guess, or I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for him on this, but this is what he told me on our debate, that obviously he believes that there will be Antichrist in Jerusalem, but Jews will find out that he requires worship, and they will refuse that worship, and therefore there will be tribulation for Jews and Christians. You see, this is what he believes.
Yeah, there's no argument there, because obviously those Jews that would wake up and reject are obviously part of the church anyway. My concern is the majority of Jews that are not going to wake up, and they're still following this new version of Judaism, which is under the Antichrist, which is
as I understand it, tell me, because when I was reading Jewish literature, they eventually think that they are Messiah themselves.
Well,
I mean,
of course, yeah,
they believe that they as a nation, they as a Jews, they're divine. They're sparks, and divine sparks, and they themselves as a collective are the Messiah to the world. So even this I was reading in their literature. And there is a Jewish woman by name Doreen Dotan who does videos, and I think I played her one time or posted her video. She's very versed in Talmud and Judaic studies, very versed in Jewish law. And she on a video said that what we Christians think that Jesus is, the Jews are. That's what she said. She said that Jews are God in flesh, collectively.
yeah.
So they have a lot of blaspheming teachings like that.
Oh, yeah, the list goes on. And then as soon as you get into Kabbalah and mysticism, it just gets even better, right?
Yeah.
But the point that I want to say in relation to Dr. Brown is, well, there'll be no need for this Noahide law or anything once the Antichrist comes, because he's creating a religion around himself. Yes, but in order to get to that point, Dr. Brown, this is where the rabbis and the Noahide laws come in. This is the inception, the breaking point, the beginning that leads up to this end time scenario. And we see this because Jesus warned it. They're going to send you to the government. They're going to send you to the magistrates. They're going to scourge you and hurt you in their synagogues. Why synagogues?
Right. Yeah,
Oh,
I guess
he's talking to his disciples. Yeah, but this is by extension to believers. This is something that's coming as well.
yes,
And
I
so
believe
why
that.
would Jesus say that? Why is he telling Jews if you're out in the field, that flee, don't turn around. If you're in Judea and Samaria, woe to them that are giving suck in those days. Because he's talking about a future state of Israel, which is 1948. That's the point that Dr. Brown is missing. Dr. Brown probably sees 1948 as something positive, where I'm coming from the perspective that it's negative.
Yes.
This is
It-
not Jesus's kingdom. This is the Antichrist, laughing at Jesus' vision of a kingdom, whatever that may be.
it's
And
marking.
this is
Marking.
a usurping state. This is not the fulfillment of Old Testament
No.
prophecies, other than to set up the foundation for this Antichrist. That's the part he's thinking, that we're extending this into this Antichrist system. We're saying, no, this is the inception of that system. This is how we're going to get to that point.
Yes. Let's go to point number 3.
Very well. So Dr. Brown's point number 3 is the following. Dr. Brown is concerned that discussion of Noahide laws raises a negative image of Jews and leads to anti-Semitism. So my response initially is this: because fringe groups, again, to borrow Dr. Brown's words, fringe groups of Jew haters may exist in the world, but they are not an excuse or a pretext to not expose the horrendous anti-Gentile agenda that reeks the pages of rabbinic literature. He cannot use conspiracy theories and presumed right-wing people as an excuse to not talk about what the Jews really are saying.
Right.
Right? All Christ-rejecting Jews, regardless of their knowledge or lack thereof of these sources that we've mentioned above, I would argue must first acknowledge they exist. That's number one. Second, they should seek public forgiveness for such atrocious ideas and speech. And third, they need to repudiate these texts. Not just, well, I'll keep this, but not this. They need to announce, this is wrong. We're getting rid of it completely, not paying homage or respect to it. Right?
Yes, I agree.
And so this is maybe where Reform Judaism is correct in that sense. In a way, they have repudiated these texts. Unfortunately, at least initial Reform Judaism, now they're coming back and backpedaling. And the reason why I say this is because they have made this expectation. They've instructed and enforced these requirements on presumed anti-Semites for decades. And so if that's the case for these anti-Semites, I'm arguing the Jews need to step up and do the same. They won't do it, though, because that would admit that their religion is false.
Yes, and I agree because, he mentioned that Jews were thrown out of countries in the past. Well, I did my research on that. I did research on history. I did research in the 12th century was this great Talmudic trial on the Talmud, because Talmud was always in Hebrew, they or Aramaic, or they never translated it to people's language, so they cannot see. And then when they did translate it, they omitted a lot of things in other languages, so the Goyim cannot see their secret teachings or what they truly mean. Right. So I was reading the great Talmud trial, which Talmud went on trial, and then Talmud was publicly burned. And a lot of kings and queens, like Queen of Spain, for example, they threw out the Jews because of their teachings in a Talmud. They were afraid that when they start applying Talmudic teachings, it's anti-human. It's an anti-human agenda. So, and of course, Jews don't want to get rid of those teachings.
Well, I'm not going to support Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand and what may have happened there, because there was different intentions. But what I am suggesting is that at that time, including now, if any burning was done, it should have been Jews by themselves to say, we're standing against this. We don't believe this. And whoever wrote this is satanic. See, the attacks.
But I actually went and read the history of how this happened, because they were welcomed in these countries, because people had no idea what Talmud contains. They had no idea, and they saw them as only Old Testament believing people that rejected Christ for the sake of Gentiles. But once these heads of the states were given translation of the Talmud, this is when the problem started. You know, I actually read books on historical books, how it all happened. Now, I'm not saying that there should be any violence. I'm never going to support any violence against no one, not even Jews, of course, no one. This is how Christians are. They love even their enemies. So I'm not supporting that part. If violence happened in the history, I'm just telling you that in the past, I read these books on the history, how the Jews got into trouble. And it was when the heads of state learned, they had someone translated for them what Talmud contains, how it is anti-Gentile, and what you just cited, what's in a Talmud, what Stephen just read. And this is how they got in trouble.
Yes, most definitely. And I'm going to touch on that as we get towards the end of this. And so I know we're running a little bit over. Let me
Don't worry about that, brother. Keep going.
let me go through it here. And so my next point, or in the response, would be that true Christians are waking up and realizing the warnings that Jesus gave about Christ rejecting Jews. So if Jesus meant what he said below, the quotes I'm going to from the Bible, then by Dr. Brown's standards, Jesus was an anti-Semite. Look at what he says twice in Revelations. He says, which say they are Jews and are not, they are the synagogue of Satan. Again, synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and they are not, but do lie. And so however people want to interpret that, the point is he said that, and if that was the case, if we're going to follow Dr. Brown's standards, then the person he's worshiping is an anti-Semite. And so what is he doing in Christianity then, right?
Well, I don't know if you remember, Brother Perez, but Dr. Brown was asking for retranslation of some passages of the New Testament.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, now the jury's out on that one. With that said, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow. Well, again, in John 8:4, right, he's speaking particularly to these elite, these Pharisees. Again, I'm not talking about the little grandma who doesn't know any better, doesn't know what's going on. He's talking to these elite Pharisees, and he's telling them, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. And so if he's saying this, well, then I guess Jesus and I and everyone here, I guess we're in the same lot, right? First John 2:22. Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, who denieth the Father and the Son. Does it say with exception of the Jewish people? No. It says all these people are liars who deny that Jesus is the Christ. So yes, that includes everyone, but specifically the Jews.
Right. So according to Dr. Brown, Jesus is definitely anti-Semitic. Huh?
And that would explain your comment as to why he's perhaps looking for a new translation, which already tells me that's a red flag as it is. And so my bullet point on this section is the following. If Dr. Brown is concerned with anti-Semitism, his concern should not solely be rooted in extreme fringe groups and conspiracy theories. Rather, his concern should be focused on the horrific statements the rabbis have written and taught against non-Jews. Let's see some of these examples. If you look at Eruvin 43b, once the Messiah comes, all nations will be subservient to the Jewish people. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if we said that? Once Republicans get into power, we're putting the Jews under our feet. Oh my gosh, we would.
Yeah.
The country, they would bomb us. The whole world would be bombing us. But these guys can say it, and it's all good. It's kosher.
Right. And we can't say nothing against it. We have to remain quiet because we are
arrested.
Yeah.
Look at more sources. Yevamot 63b. Look, all the families of the earth, right, are blessed only due to Jewish people. Are you serious? What a statement. And then you're wondering why people hate you? I mean, come on. It's almost like you're fanning it yourself.
Right. Wow.
And look at these on these sections here. Again, about Gentiles not being human. But if one applies anointing oil to Gentiles, why is he exempt? Aren't they included in the meaning of the term person? So just in the question alone, you have somebody asking that has a conscience, right? They're being taught that Gentiles are not, that the person who puts anointing oil on a Gentile, they're exempt from being, somebody that is impure. And so the response is the same as before. Gentiles are not called Adam. My goodness.
Wow. Wow.
My
That's so
goodness.
where does that put Gentiles, Dr. Brown? I mean,
I mean,
according to Jewish teachings that they hold so dear, you know?
oh, it gets better. Wait, look at the view about children. Sanhedrin 54b, the Gemara asks, what does it mean that the Torah does not deem a younger boy to be like an older boy? Rav says it means that the Torah does not deem the intercourse of one who is less than 9 years old to be like the intercourse of one who is at least 9 years old. The Torah does not deem the intercourse of a child who is less than 3 years old to be like that of one who is 3 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, I work in education. If I made a statement like that, I would be arrested on the spot. Don't you think?
I'm not sure anymore, Brother Perez, because you
Well,
have
who
no.
knows nowadays, right? But back
Yes.
when people had some morals. Ketubot 11b, it gets even better. An adult man who engaged in intercourse with a minor girl less than 3 years old. In what world is this even a conversation? Less than 3 years old has done nothing, as intercourse with the girl less than 3 years old is tantamount to poking a finger into the eye. My goodness. Now do we see why Jesus says, if you hurt any of these little ones that believe me, you're better off putting a millstone and jumping off into the ocean? This is what he's addressing.
Right. He was
This is
addressing
literally
these
what he's
oral laws.
addressing, these horrific statements that he is well aware of that would be written later after his death. Look at what
Yes.
they say here. And a young boy who engaged in intercourse with an adult woman renders her as one whose hymen was ruptured by wood. Dr. Brown, I am appalled by these statements. I hope you are too. And I would enjoy listening to your justification. And in what sane world could there ever be a context where you would just say, that's not what they meant. We don't look at those citations. Why not? I want to know.
Mhm.
Okay. And so here's the last bullet for this section. Again, had any other nation made the statements presented above about Jews, they would cry out anti-Semitism. Yet when they do what they would not want done unto themselves, the world and the church especially are quick to defend world Jewry. It is this double standard and superiority complex on the part of Christ-rejecting rabbis and Jews that will no doubt foster protest by non-Jews at the very least. Okay,
Yes.
so it's as if they're part of the problem to begin with. Now, had the Jews never wrote this, and all they ever wrote was, "We love the world, we love people, we welcome you, please hang out with us, we enjoy your company," and people
Right.
attack them anyway, then they would have a point. But this
Right.
is horrific, and that's not what's happening. And I'm interested in hearing from these messianic people, these so-called Christians, and rabbis from rabbinic Judaism that they support. I want answers. In what world can you justify this? So here's my conclusion. What is Michael Brown's real concern? He doesn't want to look bad in front of Christ rejecting Jews that he still considers part of his own national family. He thinks he can win these kinds of Jews to Christ through their own text and traditions, through scholarly titles and building ecumenical bridges, finding common ground. But what does Jesus say? Jesus said the following: "My mother and my brethren are these which hear the word of God and do it." The seed of Abraham is Christ and those who are his. This is in Galatians 3:16 and 29. The seed is not a fleshy, worldly, Christ-rejecting Israel. We see this in Romans 9:6-8. Not all Israel is Israel because they're claiming it in the flesh. On the contrary, the children of God are those that are in Christ, that are in faith. These are the children of God and the children of Abraham. So I can't force Dr. Brown to believe what I have presented. What I won't allow is his voice to be the sole voice on the subject. Those who needed to hear and see this presentation, I hope I did you justice. For the opposition, well, to each their own. Either way, I've made my choice, and my choice is to stand with Jesus Christ and his doctrines. I will always pray, hear me out, I will always pray for and seek the conversion of Christ rejecting Israel, but I will never, ever let their false teachings go unnoticed as long as I'm breathing.
Amen, Brother
Amen,
Perez.
brother.
Well said, well said. That's exactly how Steve and I feel, that we have to point out to what they're about and what they teach, especially because they have influence in governments. That's especially why.
And
Because
that's where you come in, because now here's the root, and this is the branches that you're much more ahead of me on than I am in this field. So yes, I want to hear more about the contemporary part of it.
well, the contemporary part is what we see. I mean, since Carter, right? Since Carter, they're influencing presidents of United States that are supposed to represent the people of United States. Please tell me, every year, President of United States resigns Noahide laws, Education Day USA, on the birthday of Schneerson, day that Schneerson was born, to his to celebrate him as a great educator. Now, is Schneerson talking about math, geometry, English grammar?
Of course.
Is he talking about this type of education? Because even itself, the word Education Day is misleading. And if you tell mom, soccer mom, tell her, oh, it's Education Day, what is she thinking? Tell me, what is she thinking? Oh, okay, we celebrate Education Day. We celebrate that our kids get education in math, geometry, English, and science. No, it has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do about education, about Noahide laws. So we have to go and read who started this, why he started this, what was the intent and purpose of Education Day. And then our presidents are signing that this nation was built on Noahide laws. How come you don't know about this? How come no American ever heard this? How come we don't know? And it's signed behind our back. It's happening in a sneaky way, deception. You understand? Everything about it is deception. So that way people don't notice. They go about their daily lives, okay, not even dreaming that what they are preparing behind their back. One day they're going to wake up, woof, there is no constitution. I don't believe there is any constitution anymore. So what do we have left? Executive orders and public laws. Let us not forget, it was the public law that got United States into United Nations. Now, if you cannot see that United Nations have influence today in everything, it is not Biden, Trump, and all of these presidents that have any influence. It is World Health Organization. It is all the corporations, and it's all been done to us because of public laws being signed. Yes, it's a public law 10214, but when there is no constitution, then that's all we have left. And now they're going to bring this world into crisis and chaos. What do you think will be way out of this chaos? First, the same people who brought the world into chaos, the same people are going to try to take us out of chaos. They're going to come with a solution. What the solution is going to be? The solution is going to be, moral laws, because Noahide laws are sold to people on basis of morality, ethics, justice, and as a bridge for all religions. In fact, rabbis are meeting with the scholars of Muslim world, with the scholars of Buddhist world, Hindu world. Even Vincent can tell you, he's watching this, he's a Hindu. He's watching how they're meeting with Hindu scholars, Christian world. They're meeting with all of these scholars, trying to put everybody under Noahide law and make agreements. And as we said, United Nations with Cohen, they're trying to make Noahide laws part of Agenda 2030. So it is right here, and it's brewing, and everything has been prepared. And the 10 rabbis around our president, including Biden, last month or months before, it was in April, where he re-signed Noahide laws. So people are better wake up. Because as I said, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it sure is a duck. And now this is what's been prepared for us. And of course, they're going to come in as a saviors, as a light of the world. And they have infiltrated Christianity. 99% of Christian churches, pastors, and leaders are saying that Jews are the light of the world. If you didn't hear it, but then turn on your TVs or your go to churches, because this is what they're saying. Jews are the holy people. Jews are the light of the world. Jews know interpretation of prophecies. It was given to them. They're entertaining rabbis. They're going on these ecumenical bridges. They're going on the Vatican, World Council of Churches, while the Vatican has signed with the rabbis Noahide laws in the year of 2007. Okay, they have official document.
And notice the acronym for Chabad. Steve, I'm sure knows this, right? Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at. That's what they mean by Education Day. Chokhmah, meaning potential, the way just things are. Da'at, knowledge, and Bina is understanding. That's what they mean. And these three aspects are the head, they're the keter, the corona of the Kabbalah. That's what they mean by Education Day. They're not talking, like you said, math, science, philosophy, physics.
No.
That's not what they mean.
Is this
And
such?
who wears the corona at the end? Who wears the keter? Their false Messiah, the Antichrist. That's what Education Day is about. And it starts, we come full circle. This initiation starts with the Noahide laws and the rabbis. Whether in the future these people are called rabbis or not, I don't know. But what I know is today they're called rabbis, and that's where the corona, the keter starts. It starts with their Noahide laws, and we've come full circle.
Right.
Bina,
So
by the way,
go ahead, Steve.
Bina means divine understanding.
Precisely.
So it's more than just a regular understanding. It is a divine understanding. So
Exactly.
they're claiming they have divinity on their side.
Yep.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
It is their official teaching that Gentiles are not divine. Jewish souls are all divine. There are sparks that were, they need to be regathered. Okay, so as you said, Brother Perez, that even Jewish people are in danger. Those that are secular, those that don't want anything to do with rabbis. 90% of Israel is secular. They don't want anything to do with the rabbis. They don't want to be on the rabbinic courts, but they will be forced to either do it or die as well. Because this is what they're doing. They're also reaching out to the Jews and calling them back, and they're calling this regathering of the divine sparks. So it's very important that we get familiar with their religion, their teachings, and especially because they have influence in governments. Look at Putin and his Chabad rabbi. There was an article on Google. In Google, you can Google this article. Who is a bridge between Trump and Putin? Who was that bridge? Well, they both have Chabad rabbis as their best advisors and friends. Look at Jared Kushner. Okay, Kushner was part of Chabad cult. His daughter Ivanka, okay, she became, she went into this religion after her husband. They prayed to the dead rabbi so Trump can win. In 2016, it was all published what's happening. Now, Putin is advised by Chabad rabbi. Putin wants to see Solomon's temple back in Jerusalem. They're all connected through the Chabad organization that have influence in these governments. Look at China. If you start doing research on where Chabad has this secret background influence, you will find out big countries like China, Russia, Japan, West Europe, Australia, New Zealand, United States. So they're definitely preparing something. You can see what they're preparing. So,
well, I made my point. I don't know if Michael Brown will ever see this, but if he does, I am interested to hear the justification he or anyone else would give after seeing this. And for the Christians watching, wake up, realize what you're doing, realize who you're supporting, find out where your taxes are going, as Americans.
Yes.
Guys, wake up. It's no longer grandma's Sunday school.
Right. Brother, I would love if you debated Dr. Brown, because we did debate him. You saw what happened to Vincent, but how about you? You would be great. I mean, that would be something I would like to see. Because
Even if he wasn't willing, I just would love to hear how would he respond after all of this. I'm really interested in just hearing what possible sane justification and support and patronizing can he do after this. I would just love to hear that. Hopefully he sees this, or somebody, one of his guys.
Oh, he'll see it.
pass
He
it on.
definitely knows about the channel. So, and then what he'll do is he'll just pick little pieces here and there and try to do a little rant.
Yeah, can you please, brother, tell us about your website? I know you have been attacked heavily. You had a little website. You were posting all the videos that you ever did, and you were removed. Your website was attacked. Am I correct?
Yeah, about a month ago, I went literally to bed. Website was fine. I goofed and made the website through what is called Blogger, and then obviously it's run by Google. And so, yeah, just from one night to the next day, I wake up and I get an email. No details other than what was said, that somebody reported my site. And when I went to the site, the pages that had Michael Brown, Amir Safarti, all these guys, the pages that had documents about my positions on Israel, completely wiped out. Thank God. I mean, I had all of these things saved on my drive and everything. Had I not, I would have lost everything that I've ever worked on. And so completely gone. And so there was nothing left. I had to just shut down the website. So I moved everything to what is now the Telegram app. I have a channel, Red Pill Israel. I can maybe put the link in the chat, and I don't know if you can.
Yes, please do so. Red Pill, REDPILL, Red Pill Israel.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put that.
What is it? Can you tell us the whole address?
Yeah, I'm gonna put that. The channel is Red Pill Israel, and that's in the chat. And then I'll put the link to the Telegram site, and then maybe you can somehow put this on the screen, or if people want to go, they just gotta. I don't even think they need to download the app itself. They can just link from the website, and they'll see my doctrinal statements there. All the documents I had before. It's not in nice web pages, but they're like in entries, and just go down the list. All the our videos are there. So everything's there, and it seems to be safer there for the time being, and we'll see what happens. But yes, I apologize to all those that are watching previous videos, and they're like, I've gotten emails, where's the website? What happened? So this is what happened. Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know who the person was, but and somebody reported, and then it got taken down, unfortunately.
Well, we had a lot of attacks. We had to have our website restored several times. In one instance, our web guy said it was kind of awful because it was like over several thousand of attacks before they finally took us down, but he was able to reinstate us. It happened after we talked about Amir Tsarfati.
Yeah.
And he stands on vaccines.
Suspect number one always, I'm sure.
Yeah, and because I did a video about him or to him because he called me mentally disturbed. So I made a video to him, and my channel on YouTube after that was completely taken down. So he's got that kind of influence, Amir Tsarfati. Yeah, you say anything against him publicly like this, and he will make sure your website and your channel is down. He's the one who is reporting people and has most likely influence, because that's what happened after. So that's kind of unfortunate. Yeah.
May God help them, but these are all signs. I take it as a badge of honor. I think you should too.
Yes, brother. Well, thank you so much. We don't mean anything bad against the person of Dr. Brown. We just truly disagree, and we are completely baffled how he's defending Noahide laws as some innocent little laws, without understanding what's really and truly behind them, what is their interpretation, and who has the power of interpretation, and which book they're originating in. So just kind of, I can't understand that position. But anyway, thank you, brother Perez. Stephen, are you still there?
Well, I'm still here. I'm just
Okay.
sitting right here.
Yes. So I'll let you just finish up, and we'll meet with Brother Perez again sometime.
Thank you. I thank you so much for the opportunity and the platform. And you all are amazing. And to all the audience, God bless you in Jesus' name. Be safe out there and keep us all in prayer as we pray for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Perez. We pray for you and your lovely wife.
Thank you.
Amen.
Hilda, right? Hilda.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Say hello to her for us.
Will do. Yes. She says hello and can't wait to talk with you soon when you're
Oh,
available.
that will be great. Okay.
Thank you for watching. Stephen Bruno and Yana and Brother Perez with Israeli News Live.